Well, welcome to Martini Time. I wish I knew where the when I look at myself in this, I'm looking off to the side, and I'm not sure where the camera is. But anyway, let's ride the dragon, okay? And the dragon's not the martini. What are we going to talk about today? Well, you know, I've been going through the artifacts of my spiritual journey that I have on my shelf in my foyer, and I'm getting down to the smaller things. And I wanted to talk about this little item. I bought this in India. See, this is in 1980. It's a Shiva Lingam. This is Shiva, the male principle. This is the Yoni, female principle here, right? Shiva, Shakti. Okay, these India is the Hindu mind, very metaphysical, very cosmic, and very grounded in mythology and story. So they go very high, the highest philosophies, Vedanta, Upanishads, that influenced the West in the 1800s, Emerson, Thoreau, were all inspired by the translation of the Upanishads. So these ancient scriptures and ideas filtered into the West very slowly, like a Mr. Coffee drip maker, you know. It's been very slipping in. And then in the 60s it came rushing in then, and it's still pouring in now, but it was a slow drip at first. And when it first dripped into our culture, we had the romantic, you know, remember if you ever studied literature, romanticism in England, and the transcendentalists in America. With in England it was Kelly and Shelley and Wordsworth and Keats and all these romantic poets, and then Walt Whitman and Emerson and the transcendentalists in the 1800s. It's all because of this, you see. So let's dig into this. I mean, you know, if you go to the some of the Indian temples, where you have Shiva and Shakti. Now, Shiva has a wife whose name is Parvati. Okay, and in the Indian cosmology, Shiva is the male principle, Shakti is the female principle, and the Shakti principle is the creative energy of God. And she is the universe of form. She creates form. Shiva is the transcendent principle. And when they come together, form is created, you see. So both are equal, both are opposites, yet they are one. And so this is a architectural or a symbol or a metaphor of the union of Shiva and Shakti. And in India, this is very small, but the ones in India are very big, and they are places of worship, and water and incense and flowers, and water is poured over this. You see, like a little fountain, the water pours down like the water that comes out of the Himalayas, and it pours down in the Ganges River and brings fertility to the land, you see. So this is a fertility symbol, you see. So the water comes out where these two meet. And this always reminded me of the, remember Space Odyssey 2001? Where the obelisk appeared? When this obelisk appeared, it created, they didn't know what it was. It was unnamed. The apes didn't know what it was. The astronauts didn't know what it was. But whenever it appeared from outside of the known world. It appeared from outside of the yoni. It appeared from outside of the physical world that is known. So suddenly this unknown principle rises and it creates. It's like this. It's like the grain of sand in an oyster. You know, the oyster is the yoni, and it's just, oh, this just fine. And then this grain of sand drops into it, and the oyster has to create a pearl in order to assimilate the irritation of the oyster. Maybe that's a good description of a marriage. But artists know this too. There's irritation. There's a seed there. I've got to create something. What is it? What shall I be? I don't know. What the frog voice calling? What shall I be? I don't know. What's my purpose? All of these questions. Who am I? What is my purpose? What am I supposed to do here? What's the single idea that will get me out of this fix? What can I use to improve my situation? What's that crossword puzzle word? What's the name of that? All of these things are these Shiva Lingams. They come into our world and they irritate it, and we produce stuff out of it, you see. And then I got to thinking today, well, what would a Shiva Lingam look like in our materialistic Western culture? How about that? Got the positive and the negative. You got the Shiva and the Shakti. Right here it says positive and it says negative, all right? Positive, negative, all right. Now what is the difference between these two? Okay, now this is thousands of years old. Thousands of years old. This symbol here goes back to the beginning of time. This is fairly recent. What the difference between the two cultures that I've discovered in my own journey is that the Eastern culture, India, Asia, but primarily India and then Asia, everything seemed to come out of India, was that they turned within. And this is a containment of opposite forces, positive and negative. And when you contain them together, that generates energy that can be used. So this is what yoga is all about. Yoga is the containment of the opposite forces to generate spiritual energy to evolve your consciousness. But this is an inward trip, you see. But the West, with the Enlightenment, this was after the Middle Ages, with the Enlightenment, there became this interest in the external world of form. So it became interested in the Shakti, in the forms of the world, material. It became materialist, you see. So we began to discover the laws of Shiva and Shakti, how to hold the opposites together and create energy. So this is a good example of a container of opposites. So this contains opposite forces in an ambiguous state of its available energy, its potential energy. And as soon as you connect these two to a circuit, this energy, boom, runs the circuit, runs your flashlight. It's available energy. So the West has been interested in taking Shiva and Shakti and putting it into external forms that run things. The East was interested in taking the potential energy of Shiva and Shakti and turning it inward for the evolution of consciousness and awareness. So we have great saints in India, enlightened beings who have practiced Shiva Shakti to turn this energy inward. So they don't care about the external. You can sit on a trash dump. The external world is immaterial. It's the internal world they're interested in. In the West, it's the external world that is interesting, and we don't care about the internal world. Except now these two are shifting. You see, now we've reached the edge of the material advantage. How many batteries are not, and flashlights are not going to make you happy. We've explored the external world, and we found out that there is no permanent satisfaction there. Where is the promised land? Where is the completion that we're looking for? You see. So we're beginning to turn within, and you can see it happening in our culture, yoga, in the malls, me talking here, Buddhism, mindfulness is running through all the corporations, it's coming into schools, everywhere this turning within, and we're not going through the religious forms because they have become, the religious forms in the West have kind of like become self-enclosed. There's no available energy for internal liberation. You know, it's all kind of like you just hook up to a battery circuit. But we're interested in freeing energy for my own personal evolution of consciousness. And so we're turning to the teachings of the East, yoga, Buddhism, and Zen. That's where I turned. But I thought this was an interesting comparison of the two cultures, you see, of the materialistic, rational, external culture, where all of our power now is externalized in technology, robots, computers, but inside we're empty, no power. We're helpless, weak, victims, cogs in a wheel, dirt on the fender, you see, just robots, walking dead, zombies, internally exhausted and empty, you see, because we have invested in the external world of form to the point that we've hollowed out. And now it's turning. Now we turn within now to find our original energy, the energy and the awareness and the consciousness is energy, the energy of consciousness to be more awake and aware and full of life and freedom, you see, and freedom from the world. Yesterday we talked about Krishnamurti, and when Krishnamurti was asked what his secret was, he said, well, I don't mind what the world does. The yogi doesn't mind what the world does, you see. And of course, we look at it and say, well, you should mind what the world does. The world's a mess. What's wrong with you? Don't just sit there and meditate, you see. But this is two different. So now the East is going to material growth and the West is growing to internal growth. So these two are coming back to reach this point here, you know. So it's helpful to understand what these mean and not say, oh my God, you know, that's pornography, you know. You know, what is, you know, it's not about sex, it's about cosmic principles. So let's end there with this martini, and I hope if you remember the battery and the ligam, and the whole practice of these practices of Dharma, practices of yoga and meditation are all about how to ride the dragon. Now, the dragon is Shiva Shakti energy, and we want to awaken it, and we want to make it creative, and we want to make it, because it's living. It's not dead energy. It's living energy. So I shall see you in the morning at Buddha's in the landfill. Okay. Turn you off right now.